Welcome to the Spiritual Principles Made Practical podcast. I'm your host, Scott Friedman, and today we're going to talk about how to increase your leadership potential, your potential in general. And the one thing that people don't realize is that the best thing that you can do for yourself and everybody else, and that includes reaching your potential, is to work on yourself. And specifically, what that means is to be aware of your thinking, because our mind is so much more powerful than we realize. And the more that we're aware of our thinking, the more we start to understand how powerful our mind is and how to tap into that power instead of having basically what it really amounts to is being aware of conflicting thoughts. And when we're aware of conflicting thoughts, then we're able to choose. And when we're able to choose, we're able to identify and use our power. And that's pretty much the whole story. So I always believe that example is the most powerful form of leadership. So I want to try to use this opportunity for myself to increase more of the power I have in harnessing the power of my mind. And a lot of that means is looking at thoughts that are there, right? And so when I meditate, like one of the thoughts that I've had recently is that the way that my mind creates is which it does on a huge level, right? On a huge level is it creates by the thoughts that it has. And I would say in my case, I would say about maybe 90% of my potential and my thoughts are canceled out with conflicting thoughts. And so what I want to do is, and that means that I estimate that I'm using about 10% of my mind's potential. And so to use more of it, I need to resolve more of that internal conflict that's sort of canceling out that potential. And in specific, the conflict that my mind creates. So in meditation, I get, well, all I really need to do to improve my life is to be more aware of my thoughts and to be more present. And that's how I'm aware of my thoughts. And that will create every wonderful, great thing in my life. And the conflicting thought is that I need to do stuff. I need to make stuff happen. I mean, and if it's not happening easily, I've got to force it to happen, and I've got to beat my head against that brick wall just as hard as I can, and eventually, that brick wall will fall. And just dogged, difficult, painful persistence where I'm just creating so much suffering from all of the failed attempts. And I feel like, well, that's what it takes, right? If you listen to other people, that's what they say. I mean, they've been bankrupt millions of times. They Not millions of times, but they've been bankrupt many times. Henry Ford and Sam Walton, they kept trying and trying and trying, and it was just so much trial and error and suffering and pain and difficulty in that trial and error. And the fact is that while that all of those efforts, what they did is that they exposed the conflicting thoughts, right? So they had to change differently. They had to learn from all of their mistakes, right? Well, I think there's a better way. And I'm in conflict about this, right? Because but I'm accepting that conflict, and as I accept that conflict, it lessens. And that better way is to just hold true to some inspiration I've had for a long time, which is that only act on thoughts that are uplifting and joyful and loving and compassionate that contain all of what I call the divine qualities. And then if I'm not having a thought that has that emotion tied to it, just stop and listen and trust that being aware that I don't have at the moment those uplifting thoughts, that there are no thoughts that I'm going to act on and just be aware of. And I have the thought so often that, well, you know what, I got to do something. Even if I'm not inspired, I need to do something. It's irresponsible not to be doing something. I need to be doing. I need to be doing, right? And uh, I'm accepting that I'm having that thought, and that thought's a desperation thought, right? It's like, well, I don't know what to do, but I'm going to do something, right? And it's like, well, yeah, I have that thought, and that thought's really strong, and I'm going to accept that thought exists, and I'm going to choose not to act on that thought. And uh, it's amazing. So, I wanted to run for office and stuff, and I never knew how and stuff. So I'm doing this, right? And all of a sudden I get a call and someone says, we want you to run for office. And I'm like, whoa, that's amazing. And I don't know if anything will come of it, but already just somebody calling me and saying they want me to run for office is just amazing in and of itself, as something that just occurred, and in my mind at least, and I believe that I created that with my mind. I had the desire to run for office, and that I've been aware of thoughts of like, no, you don't have any value. Nobody wants to support you and help you and all this stuff. And then somebody calls and says, we want you to run for office and we want to support you in doing it. And it's like, whoa. So in my mind, that it's working, right? This concept of like, I can create better, and by just doing that one simple thing of refusing to act on thoughts that are not inspiring and acting only on thoughts that are inspiring. And if I just do that, then like these amazing things, I mean, I've gone out and tried, and so you say, well, maybe if you hadn't have tried and failed, you wouldn't have been on some list somewhere. Well, yeah, except that uh, when I responded to people looking for candidates and so on, uh, I was inspired, and so I was and even though part of me says, this isn't going to come to anything, but I'm inspired to do it, so I'm going to do it just because I'm inspired, and that's what put my name out there. Um, and I can think of other times where, out of the blue, right? I mean, I was contacted by the newspaper years ago to participate in their storytelling program and stuff. And so I got to tell my story, and it was a hugely uplifting thing. And there were lots and lots of people that wanted to tell their stories and stuff, but I was one of the few that got picked, right? And when they called me, I didn't even remember, and to this day, I don't even remember ever having applied for it. So it's so I really believe in this, and it's exciting, right? Because it's like, okay, this is a way that I can realize more of my potential, and that includes my leadership potential, my potential to live in joy, my potential to be at peace, my potential to reduce suffering, all of that comes about by holding true to this idea that I'm only going to act on inspiring thoughts, and if a thought isn't inspiring, I'm going to accept its existence and choose not to act on it. And and it's a huge deal. So I'm going to continue to watch how this works, right? And stuff, and I don't know if I'm going to actually be on the ballot or not, or actually get elected or not. And you know what? I don't care. That's the best part. The best part is that I don't care, because I'm going to do it because I'm enjoying the heck out of doing it. Right? And that's my payoff, is enjoying the heck out of doing it. And as long as there's an action to take that I enjoy the heck out of, then you know what? Then I'm adding joy to my life by acting on it. And that's enough. That's enough. And if anything else comes of it, well, that's bonus, right? But that's not going to ever be as valuable to me as just the joy of acting on thoughts that are imbued with joy and sharing it with you and stuff. That's going to be always so much more valuable than whether I get elected or not get elected and stuff. Because that's just an outer reflection of the degree of acceptance and the power of my mind that um, I've been able to unleash by resolving internal conflict. And so I really recommend, I wrote a book entitled Getting Out of Our Own Way. And I really recommend that you read that book because uh, we all have this amazing, for all intents and purposes, unlimited potential and the power of our mind. And what's keeping us from consciously harnessing all of that is uh, getting in our own way. And so, any insights that you can get to understand how you get in your own way and how to not do that so much anymore, and same for me, is going to really help. And I've given you some example here that I hope inspires you. But believe me, if you do this and it works and you experience the same amazement I do, let me know, right? Because I want to have you as a guest on the podcast and show that this is a real deal. This is a way to progress with reduced suffering. And boy, I mean, and who doesn't want to be able to tap into more of our potential with while we're minimizing suffering along the way, right? Maybe we don't have to go bankrupt like Henry Ford and Sam Walton to do great, right? And it's not, and it doesn't matter what the outer reflection is, right? It's just the inner joy. That's all that matters. This is the inner joy, and whatever happens otherwise, whether you're president or whether you're a dog catcher, it doesn't matter, right? It's the joy. So oftentimes I talk about a mortgage client of mine. I'm still in the mortgage business, so if you need a loan in California, let me know. But this lady, she worked at the post office and still does, as far as I know, as a teller at the post office, and she took such joy in helping people, and I mean, and just her brightness and love and joy was just uplifting and infectious. It was just wonderful. So she is making as much a contribution to the world as anybody, and living in love and joy. So you don't have to be out there, with some high visibility position to be making a gigantic contribution to the world. That lady's making as great a contribution to the world as Gandhi or anybody, Martin Luther King or anybody else, Abraham Lincoln, any of those people. She's making every bit as great a contribution to the world as they are because she's living and resonating joy. And that's the whole ball of wax. So I hope you take this to heart. Again, my books, including Insights in Getting Out of Our Own Way, are available on Amazon. You can find links to them on my website, www.thoughtcoachingbyscott.com. I offer free coaching session to help you uncover your thoughts and to be more conscious of your thoughts and uh, have more freedom in choosing which thoughts you act on. That's the whole deal. That's the whole deal. And I can help you with that. And to schedule a free introductory session, which will be uplifting, right? Because whenever you resolve conflict, there's a tremendous increase in the experience of energy, right? It's that old, and it's like that Howard Thurman said, and I'm paraphrasing his quote is that don't try to do what you think the world needs. Do what makes you vitally alive, because what the world needs is people who are vitally alive. And the way that we experience being vitally alive is by resolving that internal conflict, by being accepting that it's there and accepting of our power to choose which thoughts to act on, uplifting thoughts to act on, or desperation, angry thoughts to act on. So do that. and you'll be making the maximum contribution to yourself, your leadership potential, and the world. All right, let's go out there and make this world all we want it to be.